Welcome back to Wages and Employment at Wilfrid Laurier University. Today, we're going to look at wage subsidies and refundable tax credits. For reference, you should pair this video with readings in Chapter 3 of your textbook. The simplest wage subsidy will offer a boost to a person's wage rate per hour. For example, if you were being paid $10 per hour by your employer, a government subsidy of 25% would add on $2 associated with such a program. But we'll also see income effects, as the wage subsidy offers people a higher potential income. So when we think about how this affects decisions, it's not terribly different from studying an increase in the wage rate. Because the wage subsidy only goes to people with earnings, that first segment of the potential income constraint does not change. Entering the picture, which is the same slope as the new potential income constraint to illustrate the fact that the relative prices have changed. But we look for that point where it is tangent to our original indifference curve. Up our constraint given the new prices and seeing increases in both leisure and consumption goods. This person settles with bundle D, and the substitution effect dominates so that overall we see an increase in work hours. While our empirical evidence suggests the substitution effects will dominate among those with lower wages, so that a simple wage subsidy will increase hours worked for those with low earnings, a simple wage subsidy would be offered to everyone, regardless of their total income. For some high earners, that could result in reduced work effort. It's also very costly to fund such a broad subsidy, and collecting the revenues to do that would create other problems. So some programs have found a way to target benefits to the groups we are actually trying to help out. In Canada, that targeted wage subsidy program is known as the Canada Workers' Benefit. It's a federal program that had been in the works while the Liberals were in government in the earlier part of the 2000s. But then, ingredient to successful policy. To get the CWB subsidy, a person just has to file taxes and meet a few criteria. In particular, our full-time students will not qualify for this benefit. This screenshot is from the 2005 Economic and Fiscal Update from the federal government, before the WITB was introduced. There was a desire here to support those with low earnings, but at the same time encourage work. So the language used here is to make work pay and encourage individuals to move from social assistance to the labor force by lowering the welfare wall. So I'll lay out how this benefit is structured and offer some Ontario numbers to make it a bit easier, but there are parameters common across provinces. First, you only get the subsidy for any earnings above $3,000. If you earn less than $3,000 in a year, you don't qualify. The program is then structured in three parts. The first is known as a phase-in, where you get the full 26% subsidy on any earnings over $3,000. For example, if you earned $3,100, you would get a 26% of $100 sent to you. But there is a maximum benefit reached at $1,355. So when your total earnings are $8,212, you can't get any additional subsidies. If you earn a bit more than $8,212, you can still receive the maximum benefit. In fact, they let you keep that until you earn $12,820. Then they start to reduce the benefit you're eligible for. In this phase out, your benefit is reduced by 12 cents for every dollar earned over 12,820. When your earnings reach 24,111, over $8,000. Then reaching that flat portion where they'll receive the maximum benefit, and then finally the phase out portion so that anyone with incomes above 24,111 won't receive any benefits. This is how we bring such a program into our standard potential income constraint. You'll notice this example from our textbook begins paying the wage subsidy on the first dollar earned, rather than requiring a lower threshold for earnings before a person qualifies for the benefits. Where benefits are phased in, the slope is steeper with the subsidy, and we know there are both income and substitution effects here working in opposite directions. In the flat portion, the slope is exactly the same as the original budget constraint, since it's really a lump sum benefit here. So for folks in that range, we're really just worried about income effects. And then finally in the phase out portion, we have a flatter slope, so that the price of leisure is lower and the substitution effects are encouraging more leisure. The transfer has an income effect as well, so anyone in this portion is expected to reduce their labor supply. How does a realistic version of this program look? Here I put together two examples to consider. The blue line is the constraint for a person who can earn $15 per hour and has choice in how to spend 2,500 hours each year. The red line maps in the constraint that includes the 2019 CWB. Notice there's not a big difference here. In Canada, this is a relatively small program. I also map in a make your spreadsheets to make this graph, by the way, are available online if you want to try making your own program as well. So, put into perspective, we shouldn't expect the Canada Workers Benefit to have enormous effects on labor supply, as it seems quite irrelevant to the average person. But I'd expect it to matter on some margin, particularly for those with the worst options in the labor market who would otherwise rely on welfare programs. What is clear is that the wage subsidy offers much better incentives to participate in the labor force than our simplified welfare program did. Does that mean we should scrap welfare? Of course not. It's there to support people when they aren't working. But I have seen proposals that work with a combination of these programs to offer a basic benefit to those unable to work while also encouraging and supporting work when it's feasible. In our next video, we're going to model our unemployment insurance program in Canada and map out how it matters for work incentives. See you then.